Hello, today is 30th of May 2022. I decided to do a video on conjunctions with Saturn because obviously all the most of the comments that I get from people is just like really surrender into Saturn and just thinking that it's like, well, surrender into the chart full stop, because like, how is this going to be, how my marriage is going to be. Listen guys, I really can't answer those things because it really is down to you as an individual and how you live your life. You have free will. 20 to 30% of your life is you create that. If you're constantly fearful, fear equals bad energy, negative energy, boundaries, limits, lack. You're not going to create anything. Human beings, humankind, remember we are kind and we're here to help each other out. And as much as I can, these are supposed to be informative videos so you can empower yourself. This is what we use astrology for. If you're using astrology to take that power away from yourself, what you're doing, you're restricting yourself even more. So you're doubling up on that Saturn. In fact, you're giving yourself more of a debilitated Saturn in a sense, because what you're doing, you're just thinking, I have no power. You have plenty of power, believe me. We are made of frequency. We can make things happen. This is why we are creative. Human beings are creative. Anyway, so I've got loads of videos on what Saturn is. You can just, I might put some links below, but generally speaking, here is a little sort of intro on what Saturn is. So Saturn is our boundaries, our limits, discipline, and where in our chart we're actually paying off our karma. This is what we've chosen to do. This is almost like going to imagine, this is what you want to do. This is like you've chosen this lifetime to do this. And don't worry, we've got loads and loads of lifetimes. We don't need to just like try and cram everything into one. But if you can cram things into one lifetime, do all the positive things. So where Saturn is, that is probably where it's aspecting, obviously these are going to be like mega, but also aspects 3 houses away from itself and also 10 houses away from itself too. And I actually take that 10 spaces from 10 houses from Saturn as being quite a big one. So, but generally speaking, Saturn is important. Saturn is shows you your weaknesses, where you're shy, where you got like you're blocking yourself, where you got to show humanity, humility, and remove your ego away from it. So where you don't feel good enough and you have to consciously work at it. So as I said, this is very, very, this is basically what we have to work on. And what would be the point of being on this earth if we have nothing to work on? So this is the start point of it. Saturn is obviously rules Capricorn and Aquarius. It's very, very strong in both. It's probably a little bit more autocratic and quite disciplined and unforgiving when it's in Capricorn. So we find people who actually have that in their natal chart, they are really hard on themselves, really hard. And we've all also suffered with that just recently, because we had that in Capricorn for just over 2 years, since 2020, January 24th. It's just recently on 30th of April gone into Aquarius, but it is going to retrograde back into Capricorn again. But luckily it's going to be retrograde for most of it, obviously, until it goes direct. So, but without Saturn and the discipline of Saturn, you achieve nothing in life. That is what you've got to tell yourself. If everything was hunky-dory and Jupiterian, idealistic, you have nothing at all. You just literally live on hope and optimism, being idealistic. So this is where we get the foundation, and we build from the ground up. So we get really solid foundations with the help of Saturn. There are also big learning curves for us with Saturn, where obviously we have our Saturn, where Saturn will be for just over about 2.5 years before the sign your moon is in, 2.5 years over your moon sign, and then 2.5 years after. So there are major changes in your life during that time. Again, don't fear it. I'll tell you, I have just come out of that, and it was really actually the best time of my life. And when I look back, my first Saturn return, that was when I started my business. So it just literally elevates you. If you go with it, if you put the hard work in, you're sure to get the results. And also when so that was Saturn, and there's a Saturn return as well. So where Saturn is like returns to where it is in your natal chart in transit, it arrives back on there where it was when you were born, and that will be yours again. That could be quite a pivotal time in your life. So it's very important to just like really harness that energy that's given you to just like go for life and achieve where and normally gives you quite a lot of success. People have got really good work at Saturn, and because Saturn is also the planet that gives you a lot more as you get older, at the time when you don't want to be having a lot of hardship and difficulties. So it's really supportive of life anyway in that sense. Saturn rules, as I said, Capricorn and Aquarius. Aquarius is like multiconus sign for Saturn. So this is where Saturn is really strong, but in a more freedom-loving, humanitarian way. And it's also debilitated in Aries, and it's exalted in Libra because it's a sign of working with other people. Saturn is committed to other people. It's not like about me, myself, and I. It's very much about us collectively. And this is the reason why it's so strong in Aquarius. And just turn this up. So yeah, so this and Saturn is arch enemy to the Sun first, the Moon, and it's also enemies to Mars. It's neutral with Jupiter, friendly with Venus. Venus is Saturn's best friend, because between them they bring commitment, bring family together, you work together, and then you gain from it. It is just commitment to yourself, to paying off your karma, and having other people in mind too, and also being committed to your partnerships and relationships and marriage. It's also friendly with Mercury. It works quite well with Ketu. It's not friendly with Rahu, because Rahu is all about gain and smoking mirrors, and you know, so it's a bit trickster. And Saturn doesn't like that. So Saturn is much more dignified as a planet in nature. Right. So I'm going to stop this now and come back, and we do Saturn conjunction starting with the Sun. Hello, this video is about Saturn and Mars conjunction, or aspect if they're right opposite each other. So just going to literally go through what Mars stands for, because we've discussed Saturn already. So Mars is your will, your courage and bravery, your logic, the way you action things. It rules blood and muscles, and basically is how you kind of work things out, in a sense, you know, in a logical manner. Plan of action. This is what Mars is. Mars is also Mars is actually neutral towards Saturn, but Saturn is an enemy of Mars. That's the reason why Mars does so well in Capricorn. Is exalted in the 10th house of the natural zodiac, Capricorn. And 10th house, obviously, the house that's literally, there are no shadows there. It's really bright. Everybody can see everything. You're exposed. And that's how Mars is. Mars is planet of dignity, and like a soldier, likes to do the right thing for the right people, we hope. So, and what happens, obviously, the condition of Mars and condition of Saturn will also make a difference. So in the natural zodiac, Mars rules the first house and also rules the 8th house, Aries and Scorpio. Saturn rules 10th house, Capricorn, and 11th house, which is to do with which is Aquarius. So together is a combination that's one is fast. Mars is fast and speed, and Saturn is patience and delay. So that you can see this frustration is like the theme that's running through this. And because obviously they're both kind of first class, because Sun is also a malefic, but Sun in German astrology is a mild malefic. It's not really. It's just egotistical. It's hot, and it's like creates what you call you just get hot, and it's mild malefic. But both Saturn and Mars can take us out, literally. Mars can create an accident and boof, gone. And Saturn can give us diseases long term. So you can see that in that sense, they're quite different. And we also talked about yesterday about like the conjunction of Saturn and Moon. And Saturn and Moon, obviously, is going to give issues with the mind. Wherever, anytime any planet sits with Saturn, it's going to get issues because it's a first class malefic, and it's misery. That's what Saturn is. So now we have this situation where there's constantly push and pull going on, push, pull, push, pull. So what happens is it creates a person who's constantly self-punishing. And obviously the condition of Mars and etc. will make a difference. You'll notice some of this actually if you have Saturn, say, for example, sitting in Scorpio, will have similar sorts of things. And obviously Saturn is debilitated in the first sign is in Aries, so Mars' sign, whereas Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and it's kind of like it's not so happy in Aquarius, really. So, but for Saturn being is detrimental, and you can actually feel some of these issues there too. So yeah, it's like frustration is like the theme of this, and these people will always have some form of health issue, immunity. They're very, very sensitive to anything. They literally, I think you just got to see that they both have got very opposition, very opposite kind of what's the term, agendas. So in those terms, it's going to you're gonna get something and you're gonna feel better, and then you're gonna feel worse. It just seems like if they get something, it can drag on. So they have to really look after their immune system, and they have to really listen to their body, because this combination can make one a workaholic, which is actually a situation which can create the person that can self-abuse of body, and just pushing themselves too much, too hard. And they then can get like fatigued. And I think actually definitely for women who have this, be really, really cautious of those really harsh exercises. Obviously it's, everybody's got to deal with what they want to do, but it really doesn't do them any good, because there's a problem with limitations, this but anyway, they just literally they seem to come across a lot of obstacles in life due to this very and that could create like sudden changes in their health. And so therefore immunity will be, as I said, it's a major thing. They have to be really careful with any form of medication, particularly the allopathic ones. So be really cautious. I think it's really good if you're obviously for people like a bit older, might be a bit like late, but if you have a child who has or was born with this kind of conjunction or opposition, it's really good to do muscle testing with any form of thing that they, any form of like, would you really give them paracetamol, or would you try to kind of treat it with more holistic Ayurvedic kind of thing? You really got to just choose the right ones. That's what I think is really good to see nutritionists who use kinesiology, because if they can do the muscle testing and just see how the body reacts to anything just through that. Anyway, so yeah, body gets challenged by this for sure, and you're constantly fighting something off. Some people bless them, they probably wouldn't even moan about it really, but they constantly tackling health issues. They never feel 100%. And muscles and blood are also ruled by Mars. So they could be like, you got to be careful not to poison your body. Don't get overgrowth of yeast and things, because Saturn is yeast and candida and things can be. So they do really well to exercise in a gentle way every day, walking, keeping moving, that kind of thing, because Saturn also rules the knees and the ankles. And your skeletal system. Mars rules your kind of muscles. And if there's a stiffness issue there, where you can actually have a lot of lactic acid in your body, so you do well to have massages, Epsom salt soaks, baths, go to steam rooms, and just generally be really aware of yourself, because this can give you quite a good success too. It's not all bad, but but you don't want to have that, and the cost of it will be your health. So you want to be aware of that. So the other thing is, obviously, recovery from any form of thing will just take a bit longer as well. So that you just want to be aware of it. There is also these, because of all these limitations and the will of Mars, there's going to be this kind of when things get a little bit too much for them, they could really feel paralyzed by life's limitations on them, because they just get obstacle after obstacle and limitations constantly. But they also can, with time, they can really solve any issue. And obviously there are times in their life that anger can get the better of them. If Mars situation can be a little bit, they can be quite passive as well. So they will take all the issues, all the limitations, all the frustration out on themselves. They're not abusive to other people. They're abusive to themselves. That's where the issues are. That's how they get ill, because all the mind realizing how difficult life is for them, and they will have to work so much harder than everybody else to achieve exactly what other people have. So therefore they can actually have this this frustration, and it builds on them and eats at their root if they don't actually channel it well. And but with time it gets better. And but there are times in their life that they get absolutely frozen and paralyzed by absolute limitations, and how they have to work so hard at everything. Absolutely difficult. But as I said, this is it's exhausting on the body, so you have to be aware of it and use the logic of Mars to work at it and get it quite well. And wherever the sign is, the signs are, remember that area with time gets better. So, just give it time and allow everything to work out. And also these people, because what happens with the sun, with Saturn is patience, and Saturn is shyness. There's like a little bit like, oh, I'm not good enough, that kind of thing. So Mars is overshadowed by that as well, where it's feeling the lack, feeling not good enough, feeling I have to work so much harder than everybody else. And and also remember that Mars is also the significator of brothers and sisters. So it can be that they feel as though they are misunderstood by the parents, whereas the other two, the siblings can actually get away with murder, whereas they can't get away with anything. They just like seen, and they have to deal with that quite immediately, that kind of thing. And also can create, obviously, health issue, not just for yourself, but your sibling as well, because it is the indicator of, so there could be an issue. And because Saturn is dealing the karma out, the karma is that, there is some repayment of land, because Mars is also land, or with siblings. Okay, let's have a look at the chart now and go through the different ascendants. Okay, so for, obviously, as I said, this could be the opposition as well. So Mars could also be there. So for Aries ascendant, you have Mars ruling first and eighth house, Saturn 10th and 11th house. So Saturn rules for you the Upachaya houses, which get better with time. And it's obviously a house of work and karma that you're dealing out to the world, and also gains that you have from that karma. And normally they have to work really, really hard with this. They're hard workers. And obviously what happens is Mars rules first and eighth house. So there are always going to be sudden changes in their groups of friends. They can also be, they can create their own job, because this first house ruler is actually in so they could be self-employed because of that, particularly if the 10th house has got good Ashtaka. And so yeah, this creates like a Raja yoga, a Dana yoga for them, whatever house they go into. But clearly the house that they go into, remember, there's going to be the health issues will be in those houses. But otherwise, yeah, as long as they accept that there's going to be changes within themselves, within their groups of friends, in their sudden gains, stuff like that. So it can go up and down, and their work situation too. There will be losses or changes, and just embrace it, go with it, because actually the eighth house doesn't take anything away from the good yogas, really, but it is hard working. And obviously if Saturn is debilitated in a debilitation sign like Aries, so it gets like double Mars there if you're sitting with Mars there. So it's going to be like, you've got to be ultra careful with your health, really. So, and if Saturn is debilitated, which sitting with a debilitated Mars, which is in the fourth house, there's going to be problems with land, property, mother's health, and generally happiness. They have to really work at that. So, and we are not ever depleted of anything either, remember, because our dashas change our ascendant. So, okay, the next ascendant, Taurus. So for Taurus ascendant, Mars rules 7th and 12th house, and Saturn is your Karaka planet, 9th and 10th house. So it just means that it creates wonderful Raja and Raja yogas for you. So it's also what happens is it's Mars rules an angle for you. So it's 7th house, and when it's in combination with Saturn, 9th house ruler, that's really a successful yoga going on there. So, and generally speaking, people who have Saturn, Mars, or opposition, or whatever is going on, can build things. They build a foundation of their life quite easily. And so yeah, this could be like quite nice combination. There could be some foreign things going on there where they can just like move abroad and go to study abroad, and then they meet their partner, or their business could be, because they could be self-employed too with this, or they could work with their partner. But generally speaking, they could actually work abroad. But when I say self-employed, really that depends if the first house or third and sixth house are also quite strong. But I guess I'm saying this because these two aspects in the third house there. So, but yeah, generally speaking, it'd be quite successful work. They could do really well and get to quite high positions because of it. Now for the next ascendant, which is Gemini, is this will be like 8th and 9th house ruler, Saturn, with 6th and 11th house ruler, which is Mars. So this actually is definitely going to create health issues, because brings together 6th and 8th house together. It does create a Viparit Raj Yoga, where through difficulties and setbacks and losses and everything else, sudden changes, they can, after really going through lots of difficulties, and it will be lots of difficulties, health issues, losses, everything like that, they become really, really successful, and they can gain from it, because it rules brings 9th and 11th house ruler together as well. So, but it does take time. It's Upachaya 6th house, so, and also so is 11th house. Yeah. Okay. For next ascendant. Okay, apologies. Right, so going back, okay, Cancer ascendant, sorry, let's go to Cancer ascendant. For for Cancer ascendant, Mars obviously very important planet, rules 5th and 10th house. Wonderful yoga karaka planet on its own can create wonderful yogas for you, and it pretty much works the same wherever it is, apart from the 6th house will be probably a little bit difficult. But generally speaking, it brings together 7th and 8th house ruler, so angle house ruler Saturn with a yoga karaka planet which rules an angle and also a trine. So this is going to be multiple things going on there. Wonderful, very, very strong Raja Yoga, depending on what house it goes to, that even elevates it even more. It is obviously going to be slightly difficult in the sense that it rules, obviously, if it brings 5th house into it as well. So there could be some issues around children because there is going to be like Mars and Saturn together, one of them ruling the 5th house. So that kind of thing can be a little bit, I would probably say things to do with investments, children, education, academic education can be slight delays or breaks in it for some people. Not necessarily always, because it doesn't actually upset any yogas, but that could happen for some people. But obviously really hard workers, and that will reflect really highly for their work, and they could also meet their partner at work too. Okay, for Leo ascendant for you yoga karaka planets, Mars rules 4th and also 9th house. Again, on its own can create wonderful things. When it is with Saturn, though, Saturn rules 6th and 7th house, so trinal house, but also 6th house, which can spoil the good fruits of the yogas, the good yogas. This obviously can create some health issues, a divorce, obstacles and setbacks, litigation issues, and it could just be health issues for the parents or for the spouse as well. So just got to also just realize 6th house, it could be for yourself. So you don't want to be like pushing yourself too much. It could also be that you work in a service industry or for the government too, depending on the placement of it. But yeah, so that's what it is. But obviously dedicated, if it's in good condition, very much dedicated to working for the underprivileged people, which is Saturn really. So and Mars will be really dedicated to that, because Mars, particularly in signs such as Libra, is very devoted. Okay, next one will be Virgo. So Virgo is has Saturn ruling 5th and 6th house, and Mars not a good planet for them, 3rd and 8th house. So you know immediately that there's going to be issues with this one regarding the fact that it could impact health. Long-term health as well. So, but it does bring together two planets that obviously are Upachaya. 3rd and 6th house are Upachaya, 6th and 8th house. So they get Upachaya houses get better with time, perseverance, putting effort into it. And 6th and 8th house rulers, Mars and Saturn together, despite all putting effort in, working hard, long-term, all that difficulty can actually turn into good fruits for you, but it does take time, and there will be definitely obstacles and issues there with education, with investments, and siblings too, possibly. But the sign and the house will make a difference, put another flavor onto that too. Libra ascendants, for you guys, Saturn is a very, very good planet, and actually so is Mars, so they're not too bad. However, obviously they're still two malefics. So this brings together 2nd and 7th house ruler, and also 4th and 5th house ruler. So it's all about family, happiness, the property, resources, things like that, and romance and children, creation of that. So you just got to be aware that you don't want to be like working too hard, so you can't really, you're always tired and damage because obviously fourth house is your heart, just like, and these people can actually get really heartbroken too for that reason, because obviously it creates that issue with the fourth house. Fifth house is romance too. When Saturn is conjunct Mars, which is quite malefic, it can create that heart wall for them. So getting over a heartbreak, a relationship ending will be heartbreaking to them. So they have to work at that, to just be logical about it. If it wasn't serving neither of you well, why would you want to suffer that? But yeah, there is obviously a lot of goodies in there as well, because second and fifth house ruler come in connection. It's really good for money. Fifth and fourth house ruler Saturn on its own can create wonderful yogas, as can Mars as well, seventh and fifth house rulers together. Obviously, if they go in the sixth house, there's going to be some issues there, but generally not too bad at all. Okay, so Scorpio ascendant for you guys, Mars and Saturn. Mars rules first and sixth house, and Saturn rules third and fourth house. So again, this is where you have to just see that Mars can create issues. Because it's just like Scorpio ascendants do everything really fast, and they're very competitive. So they can actually create their own obstacles, issues, and health and accidents and things. So they have to be really careful, because they do things really fast without thinking. But hopefully, this is the answer to these problems, because Saturn is all about patience, learning the lessons over time by really digesting it. So yeah, so this is going to teach them about not creating their own health issues, working hard at actually learning what's good for their heart, what's good for their happiness, that kind of thing. And generally speaking, though, through lots of effort and hard work, because both third and sixth house are Upachaya house, eventually things work out in their favor, because they will be hardworking, they will put the energy in, they can probably have some health issues along the way. They're quite determined as well. So that determination of the third house and sixth house together can bring quite a successful person. And they probably work for themselves, because third and sixth house, if they're in good condition, self-effort can create the service job. Okay, now for Sagittarius ascendant, we have second and third house ruler Saturn with fifth and 12th house ruler. So that there could be issues with the siblings for sure, because third house is involved in this, and the 12th house. So there could be like a loss of contact with a younger sibling. And also obviously second house ruler is they kind of can be spending a lot of money. They could be drinking because two malefics, drinking addictions, things like that could happen if it's not in good condition. And particularly if it's debilitated too, if one of the two planets are debilitated, that can definitely be the case. They just in order to hide the pain that they're going through, they could just spend money. But once they let their creative side out and learn some skills that they can do with hands and hobbies and connect with people like that to bring out their creativity, like playing music, guitar, something like that, because they're very logical, they can really create quite a lot of riches for themselves. And the way to tackle this one is through working with siblings, working with a family and children and young people, just maybe they become eventually pass on their life skills to them. They could be sort of people who do cadets and things like that. So yeah, eventually working hard at that, it works pretty well. But there will be some losses to begin with and self-sabotage. Okay, Capricorn ascendant. So Mars rules 4th and 11th house for you, and Saturn 1st and 2nd house. So it brings together two planets that create money. Dhanastan, so 2nd and 11th house rulers together is really, really good. But this will be working really hard, and perseverance and long-term planning things will be really good for them in terms of earning. And they make great property developers, so they can have that as a sideline for themselves. And property developers, they could also be people who actually work on cars, to just work on them and gain on the side. Very, very good. They obviously brings fourth house ruler. They So the mother could be quite a strong personality or could have health issues too. And also this could be like something that you always got to just make sure your car is repaired, and don't leave it to the last minute. But they work really hard at just kind of having some money for the rainy day for the family, quite devoted to the family, and they can create loads of money themselves. They would be quite entrepreneurial. Okay. Oh. Okay, Aquarius ascendant. So this will be first and 12th house ruler Saturn, and third and 10th house ruler the Mars. Now, obviously, Saturn on its own can create addiction for these people. So, but what they can do by just like using their imagination, they could be inspirational speakers when it comes to talking things to do with spirituality and connecting to the source. This could be like do yogas and mantras and all that kind of meditative jobs, working in hospital, maybe even laboratories, prisons. But they'd be like they can be quite inspirational in that sense because they work really hard. They'd be very, very handy. So they could also create work on their own in isolation and make things, because the third house is in there. They're very, very creative. So they could also be musicians and always travel with their job to do concerts or gigs, festivals and things like that too. Very, very good in that sense. And but they have to be careful because of that. They don't get exhausted with all the traveling, and because 12th house is hospitalization and travel. So, but they could also work in like a recording studio too, making music. Okay, so next one will be Pisces ascendant. Pisces ascendant for you, Saturn is not a very good planet, 11th and 12th house ruler. And but Mars is very good, 2nd and 9th house ruler. So you need to look after father's health, be aware of that, your education, that kind of thing can give you quite a lot of losses too if it's not one of the planets, or because can be in poor condition. So this could give losses. So you earn money and you lose money as well, because there'll be because there's no plans going ahead, there's a lot of frustration, and because poor planning, poor organization of things can create those issues. But generally speaking, they can gain quite well because it brings 9th and 11th house ruler and 2nd and 11th house ruler. But because also 12th house is involved, as soon as they gain money, they could spend the money too. And but the gaining will be good, but the actual reserving the money will be difficult because the 2nd house is a movable sign. But it depends where they actually go. But there could be family, could be father could be absent, or somebody could have addiction issues too. But good for money. If they don't spend it, they learn lessons of Saturn and stop spending as such. Anyway, that's it for now. Right, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.